Strasser,
Here.
and Johnny Wolfall.
Here.
That's everybody.
Clinton is in Germany. It's 8 o'clock at night over there. I'm sure at 8 o'clock at night in Germany, he doesn't have anything else better to do than to be on a Zoom call here for the UT Martin. But because of that, we will have to continue to do our roll call votes on everything. Dr. Freeman, do you have any opening remarks?
No, just thank you to the board for being here. We are very excited. We had a great year this past year, and I'll do some highlights and remarks a little bit later in our agenda, but thank you for being here. We have some new faces, and so it's always great seeing new faces here, and look forward to updating you at this meeting.
And I echo those welcomes. This may be the first time we've had a full board complement of members in a while, really, because we've had people in and out. First item of business is in tab 1, you have the minutes. And I think those things were emailed out to us earlier. Are there any corrections, additions, or deletions that need to be added? And I realize, Tanya, you were not here, so just trust us on this. Hearing none, is there a motion that we accept the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Please take the roll call vote.
Al Bynum,
Yes.
Taylor Cantrell,
Yes.
Tanya Riddleson,
Yes.
Clinton Smith,
Yes.
Art Sparks,
Yes.
Dan Strasser,
Yes.
Johnny Wolfall.
Yes.
And it obviously carries. Dr. Freeman, there is an election of a new secretary.
Yeah, so before the board today is the election of a new secretary, Mr. Jake Bynum. You'll find the details in tab 2, section 5.2 on page 4, around the details for this nomination that's here. I'll quickly read in summary for you. Advisory Board Secretary is recommended by the Chancellor and elected by the Advisory Board. The Secretary serves at the pleasure of the Advisory Board and without a definite term. This position assists in preparing the agenda and materials, prepares and maintains minutes, maintains a current set of bylaws, amendments, and records pertaining to the Advisory Board. At this time, I would like to put forward Jake Bynum, Mr. Jake Bynum, as the new secretary for the Advisory Board.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I really think we ought to have a lot of discussion about this. I don't mind telling you. Now, I've known Jake for a long time. Jake has started at the beginning of May, I think it was. He's the former, I got to know Jake when he was a waiter a long time ago over in South Fulton, or in Fulton, I guess it was. He has just resigned as the mayor of Weakley County and did a great job there. Are there any questions that anyone has either of Jake or Yancey? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote.
Al Bynum,
Yes.
Taylor Cantrell,
Yes.
Tanya Riddleson,
Yes.
Clinton Smith,
Yes.
Art Sparks,
Yes.
Dan Strasser,
Yes.
Johnny Wolfall.
Yes.
And it passes. Okay.
Wonderful. Next up is the appointment of our faculty representative, Dr. Dan McDonough. You'll find information about this appointment in tab 3. And again, a summary, the UT Martin Faculty Senate selects the faculty representative for the advisory board. This is a 2-year term and will officially begin with the start of the new academic year. The Faculty Senate has determined that this position will be filled by the most recent Faculty Senate president, whose term began in an odd-numbered year. That means our faculty representative this year and next year is Dr. Dan McDonough, our most recent past Faculty Senate president. So I would put forward Dr. McDonough's name as the representative for this board as for the faculty.
And his term did begin in an odd number year.
Yes.
As the Senate president, not here, okay. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We We have a
I second.
motion, and we have a second. Is there any discussion?
Are they present?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, Dan, stand up.
Dr. McDonough?
He has been very active in talking to me about the UT Martin things, and I think will be a great addition.
Well, and I'll say personally that Dan, being the first Faculty Senate president that I've worked with this year, has been extremely knowledgeable about issues and concerns as they relate to faculty, and feel like he will make a wonderful voice on this board to advise and talk to this board about issues or concerns that faculty might have. So I am thrilled to make this nomination of Dr. McDonough.
And Dan, you might update us on what you teach and exactly what you're doing right now.
Okay, well, I teach history. My specialty is the American Revolution. Write 2 books on Boston and the American Revolution. And that's basically what keeps me going. Besides closing out my term as senator.
That's great. Any questions? Hearing none.
I would say I'm honored to provide that second because he was the advisor for my wife and got her through school and did an amazing job, and they have stayed in touch, and he's very respectable and a wonderful asset here at UT Martin.
Dan, how long have you been at Martin?
32 years.
32 years. Roll call?
Al Bynum,
Yes.
Taylor Cantrell,
Yes.
Tanya Riddleson,
Yes.
Clinton Smith,
Yes.
Art Sparks,
Yes.
Dan Strasser,
Yes.
Johnny Wolfle.
Yes.
Okay. And then finally, there is the appointment of the student representative. This year, that is Kyle Watkins, who is a rising sophomore, agriculture major. You'll find the details in tab 4 about the student representative. Just a summary of the responsibilities for the student. The student representative for the advisory board goes through the SGA election process and must meet the SGA's qualifications for election. You have the qualifications listed in your packets. The top three vote recipients are submitted to the chancellor, and the chancellor makes the appointment. This year, I have selected Mr. Kyle Watkins from Fayette Ware High School in Somerville, and as I mentioned, he is majoring in agribusiness actually. So I put forward Kyle's name as the next student representative for the advisory board, and I'll share as a side note, this was one of the hardest decisions I had. We had 3 outstanding students nominated for this board, and I think you will find that Kyle is an outstanding UTM sophomore now, because he is coming back in his sophomore year, so I think you will find that Kyle is an outstanding student. I know Kyle is also here. Kyle, if you'll stand.
Thank you, Kyle. Nancy, I hope that you change the student member nominee pledge form because he can't sign it,
Oh,
because he was not a full-time student in 2020.
oh, okay.
But you'll get that changed,
Yes,
right?
I will. We'll definitely make sure that gets changed, so.
Okay. Kyle, we're glad you're here. We certainly welcome you to the board. And let there be no doubt, we are very interested in hearing from you of any concerns that you and the students have, because that's what we're here for, to straighten Dr. Freeman out. as
That's
much as
right,
we can.
absolutely.
So you have our ear, I assure you. Is there a motion to accept Kyle?
So moved.
Okay. We'll give that to Taylor since all right,
She might be excited to,
is there a second? Any discussion? Hearing none. Jamie?
Al Bynum,
Yes.
Taylor Cantrell,
Yes.
Tanya Riddleson,
Yes.
Clinton Smith,
Yes.
Art Sparks,
Yes.
Dan Strasser,
Yes.
Johnny Wolfle.
Yes.
And it passes. Dr. Freeman, can you give us an update on the Vice Chancellor for advancement?
I will, and before I do that, I want to just take a moment to acknowledge both Taylor Cantrell and also Jamie Mantooth, Dr. Mantooth, for their work on this advisory board for this past year. They have been simply outstanding. Jamie, thank you for all of your work in preparing all of the minutes and notes and presentations and making sure that everything seems very seamless when we get here. So Dr. Mantu, thank you for your work. And Taylor, you have been an exemplary representative for our student body. So thank you for attending all of these meetings and hanging in there with us and being the voice of students on this board. So thank you. If you don't mind, can we give them a round of applause?
Thank you.
Okay, now on to the Vice Chancellor for Advancement Search. When I initially put this on the agenda, I was not certain we were going to be through that search process and have a person identified. Lucky for me, we have identified an outstanding candidate for this position. We have put forward and hired lock, stock, and barrel. We have a signed contract now. Ms. Gina Curtis Swafford. Gina, please stand. She is here with us today. She is the new Vice Chancellor for Advancement. She's no stranger to the university. She's been with the university for the last 32 years. I was going to say 4. So the last 32 years she has been with the university. She served as the interim Vice Chancellor prior to Dr. Deal being appointed and served as interim again. We had a very competitive search process, national process, and had 3 top candidates, and Gina really rose to the top candidacy for that position overall. And so we are proud of her time in that role. We know Gina's going to do some incredible, amazing work with advancement and alumni affairs. I met with her yesterday, and she's already hitting me with 20,000 ideas, so that is a great thing. So please join me in welcoming Gina Curtis Swafford permanently as our Vice Chancellor for Advancement.
Gina, do you want to say anything?
Just looking forward to the challenge, and thank you for this opportunity. I'm very honored.
No, Gina, you were supposed to ask them for money.
Yeah, that's practice.
That's second, right? All right. Dr. Freeman, you're getting close to the end.
Yeah.
What you've got to do. Let's talk about the 25-30 strategic plan.
So thank you. This is an exciting time for the institution. If you'll go to the next slide, I'm going to sit here. The university is at the beginning phase of our new strategic plan. Just as a refresh of your memory, we did a strategic plan refresh for 2022 through 2025. Now, I know we're in 2024 right now, but in order for us to get to that plan in 25, we have to start right now with the planning process. And so we are taking great notes about the accomplishments from the last 5 years or the last 3 years for the refresh. And then we are working our way on all of the work that needs to be done for the 2025 through 2030 strategic plan. I've shared with the committee that I would love for us to focus on 4 things, 4 major things, on people, places, achievement, and partnerships. So as we walk through this, I want this to cover a number of different areas for the campus. I do certainly believe that this is going to be a campus-wide, area-wide, because it will include business leaders, it will include folks who are not necessarily members of the campus community in this process. The advisory board has responsibility for reviewing that strategic plan, and so you will see this information coming back to you in a very real way as we continue to analyze what's there. If you'll go to the next slide for me. So you'll see this strategic plan again as we continue to develop it. I have been able to talk Dr. Cavalier and Dr. Luter to be co-chairs. So our provost and our chief student affairs officer is going to be the co-chairs for the strategic planning committee. And then I've listed the names of the folks who have agreed to serve on the committee overall. It is no secret when I met with them initially to charge the committee, it is no secret about why these folks have been selected, both for their talent and the diversity of the areas that they represent, but I think folks will agree, these are the folks who really are making sure that things go. Everyone from faculty to folks in facilities to our outreach and economic development area to our regional center. So we have a really well-represented group of individuals with the strategic plan so that we can get the best plan possible going forward. You'll go to the next slide. I want to just present to you the timeline for where we are. So on May 14th, just this week, we kicked it off and met with the committee. We are going to do a number of things in June and July in terms of a SWOT analysis with working group areas. On August 9th, the Chancellor and Cabinet will affirm the 5 goals. So it is really important to me that we are succinct and very direct in what we want to accomplish. And so when I charged the committee, I said to them, I would love to see no more than 5 overall goals and 25 strategies. In my mind, if we are able to do 25 things really, really well, we will have advanced this institution by leaps and bounds. And so I'm asking them to keep it to 5 major goals for the campus and 25 strategies as we go forward. At the August 15th State of the University address, I'll share those 5 major goals with the campus so that they are aware, and then we will work through a process of developing those strategies, the objectives, the key performance indicators. It is important that any of our strategies and all of our goals have measurable outcomes connected to them, and so we will make sure that we have those measurable outcomes there. I anticipate having a draft of the plan by November the 15th. December 15th, we'll submit any sort of final version, any final revisions for the plan, and on January 25th, we will have them included for UT board approval. Prior to that time, we will have to get it approved by the advisory board. So we will send you different iterations of it, draft iterations of it, as if you will, so that you have an opportunity to engage and participate. I will ask you, as we are doing town hall meetings, there's one that is tentatively scheduled right now for October 28th. You'll get an invitation to come back and participate and engage with us and to help us with really thinking about, are we on the right track, or are there things that we need to change in the plan going forward. So as you receive these invitations going forward, we would ask you to come back and help us. We will get you engaged and involved as we develop that plan for final approval by the Board of Trustees in February of 2025. Coincidentally, that board meeting, the UT Trustee Board meeting, is going to be held at UT Martin in February. And I think there is no better place than to present our plan than to them while they are here on our campus. And so I'm looking forward to what is going to be a very successful planning process, and one that will lead to final approval by this advisory board and then final approval by the UT Board of Trustees. So I'm happy to answer any questions for you at this time.
Yancey, will this plan have capital projects in it, or?
It will, and if you go back one slide for me, go back another one. So you'll see, and I didn't define very heavily in here around the people, places, achievement, and partnerships. The people really is around faculty, staff, and students. The places are capital needs, the regional centers, and also online, because we are thinking about online as a place. Achievement is both in scholastic achievement and also in student development. We think we are not only creating students who do well in the classroom, we think we are creating incredible leaders as well. And so it is important that it is demonstrated in this plan, and then in partnerships. And partnerships could be corporate partnerships in the way that we do it really well. It will be important for us to continue to partner with other higher ed entities, the TCATs, the community colleges, other four-year institutions that are in our area. That will be very important. And then also for elected officials, there is not a way that we can do this well if we are not partners with our local and state elected officials for the success of UTM. And so all of those areas, I think, are going to be pretty comprehensive. And I'm giving that committee the really hard task of keeping it to 5 major goals and 25 strategies for reaching those goals. So we'll see what happens.
I've got another question.
Yes.
This may not be an appropriate time, but you know me, that doesn't
That's
bother me.
okay.
It
That's all
doesn't bother me a
That's
whole
all
lot.
right.
I was in Oak Ridge Monday night and had dinner with Dante Plowman, me and several other folks, the chancellor at UT Knoxville. And it resonated with me that she was talking about the same things that we're talking about, dorms and buildings. And she made the statement that they had partnered with some for-profit organizations to put the dorms in.
Right.
And are we looking at that, or is that potentially something that might be in the plan?
So we are going to talk about, we are not looking at partnering with a for-profit entity for our residence halls, but Dr. Luter is right now in the center of a programming process project that will, that will mean we would flatten Browning Hall, that is part of the Y dorms right now, and erect a new residence hall for us. We are in I hope, some of the final stages of planning for that. We anticipate that we would be able to take project approval to the board in the fall for that particular project. I think it is also important for us to rely on the folks who are, local here. So business and industry leaders, in particular those that are responsible for economic development and housing in this community. There's probably not a way that UTM will be able to provide all of the housing that will be necessary for the growth that I am projecting for our campus. We've been talking about 10,000 students in terms of growth for our campus. And so I am going to rely very heavily on not just our plan for building additional housing here. Been talking to Dr. Luter about a 5-year strategy for, we get the new residence hall up, what's next after that? And so we are developing that plan, but it is going to be incumbent on us to also really rely heavily on folks who do housing and development here in the area to help us with housing, not just our students, but also faculty and staff. Because I've been told in very certain terms that there is not a way, we don't have enough capacity right now. If we had 10,000 students tomorrow, it would break our infrastructure in a lot of ways. So we want to make sure that we have responsible growth going forward and that we are preparing for that growth going forward.
I'll ask you, or ask Dr. Luter, did I dream that if you have a dorm, potential dorm construction that cash flows, that you don't have to jump through all the same hoops that you do, say for a business building or a Latimer Smith building?
I just wish that were true.
Okay. Maybe I dreamt it.
And Peter McPherson is also here, who
Okay.
deals with our capital project meetings, and Dr. Luter, I don't know, Andy, if you can address that issue, or Peter, either one of you.
The process is different for a capital outlay request than it is for an auxiliary or self-supporting area. We will have to ask for bond authority, the bonding authority but that is a separate process. It's fewer steps, but the hoops may be a little bit smaller.
Okay. And that makes sense, because if you need a dorm, Petra, if it will cash flow.
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
A year or so ago, we were talking about partnership with the junior colleges and building a test hub, I believe what we call it.
Yes.
Where is that project?
Yeah, that's a great question. We are moving forward with the test hub project. I saw the building schematics just yesterday, as a matter of fact, and so we are moving forward with it. Of course, with inflationary costs, construction costs that were up, the original scope of the building was about $4 million, I think, above what we were able to secure initially with the state. So we went back to the table to lower the scope of the project so that we could get it within the dollars that we have. We've gone back and met with our partners at Dyersburg State and the TCAT, who are gonna be in the test hub with us as well, so we've been able to do that. And the project is moving forward, so we're working through some of the schematic designs that are there. The programming piece of it has been, is done at this point, and so we anticipate that it will be soon that we'll start to, to break ground in terms of infrastructure for the test hub.
Very good. Other questions? Okay.
I have a question about the 10,000.
Yes.
Is there a design to what that lift will be in relation to on-campus or satellite
Yeah.
campus or online?
Yeah, so we are starting to develop it. I have a retreat with the cabinet members in about 6 weeks, and we're starting to develop what that mix will look like overall in terms of the total number of students. I will share with you, it's an amazing lift, and we'll need all entities sort of working with us. I've been sharing with the regional centers already about the desire to grow enrollment, and the response has been overwhelmingly positive at those regional centers for what we're doing. We went into partnership with a new one with Ball State, and so that response has been overwhelmingly positive. We've been talking about growing our international student population to 5% of our student population as well. I think we've done some amazing things to grow in graduate enrollment. I anticipate that we'll do that more. Also by looking at those programs that are the most desirable programs. I think we have one, we're working on one right now, a master's in social work that is a pretty desirable program because I keep getting students asking about, whether or not UTM is going to do a master's in social work program. So it is moving right now through the approval process that's necessary to get it up and going. And so we'll have a more definitive response around what's the mix of that for on-campus, regional centers, online, undergraduate and graduate, as we continue to go. So we're not quite ready to answer that question, but I will be ready to answer it soon.
Hal, I did tell the chancellor that if we did not get to 10,000 by 2030, 9,900 would not be considered a complete
Failure.
One other question,
Yeah.
kind of related to that. Sometime in the past, we've talked about there was a cliff coming of high school graduations. I never could remember what year, have we hit that? Or
Yeah, and
when's that?
so there has been, it has been interesting because Tennessee has not experienced the same cliff in terms of the steep decline in the number of high school graduates that some of the other states have seen. What we have seen is a more competitiveness for Tennessee students because we're not declining in high school graduates here. And so there is fertile market in our area to be able to get those students and to be able to, in some cases offer in-state tuition for contiguous states that are around us. And so the competition is pretty stiff here in Tennessee, but we've not seen sort of that significant decline in numbers of students. It's why we really have to make sure we're diversifying our student pool. So when I talk about more students who are online, that's really a convenience for students. When I talk about the regional centers, that's a convenience in terms of access for students because those students are able to get a degree in their county, mostly rural counties, and not have to leave, that county overall. So it's more of a convenience for them and access for them within those communities. We have to continue to work on adult, students and getting them enrolled on the campus. More partnerships with Jackson State. We just signed a dual enrollment agreement, an admission agreement with Jackson State. And so doing more of those that makes the transfer process more seamless really does, I think, help us with getting to that 10,000 number that we want to go to.
I apologize, I think I got you off of your presentation.
It's okay. That was actually go ahead and go to the next one, and then to the next one, and then to the final. Okay, so that was actually the last
Okay.
piece of information I wanted to share on the strategic plan. Stay tuned for opportunities to engage with us. We're gonna keep you engaged and involved in what's happening. That will be part of Jake's new responsibilities going forward, to make sure that this board is aware of what's happening and to get those invitations to you in terms of information, and to be responsive to any questions you have, so that by the time we get to the meeting, to have the advisory board approve it, at that point, you will be well aware of what's in it and will know enough information about it that I'm hoping it will make it a really easy approval process for us going forward.
And please question things. Jamie has been extremely good about getting back. Jake has already been great about emailing back with questions or answers to those questions. So if you see something in there that you've got a question on, ask it. Now, there may be a reason that they did it the way they did, but at least we make them stop and think. And again, we're supposed to be ambassadors for UT Martin, so some of the growth is our responsibility.
Well, I went to the bookstore before the meeting and bought a new shirt.
Yeah, very good.
And Hal is actually the Taylor, when did you graduate?
High school?
Yeah, no, college. You're still in college.
Still here,
Okay.
yes.
He's probably the newest graduate that we have at UT Martin anyway in this room,
Mr.
which I'm
Chairman,
proud for.
One other thing on strategic plan, it's great to have a plan, but it's got to be used to be beneficial. And I'd like to see one of the future meetings, kind of an update on what happened with the 2022-2025 strategic plan.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What was intended, what came out of it, and the benefit of it.
Absolutely. We will certainly have that information for you, and will be part of the process for approving the new plan. So we'll do some major highlights, because it had more than 25 strategies connected to it. So we'll do some major highlights for that plan and just bring it back so that you have some ideas, maybe even talk about what some of the challenges were with it, so that you have some ideas. And it'll give you maybe impetus for the new plan that's there. So Chancellor Carver was here. From my understanding, he was the first chancellor that put a strategic plan in place, and so it was a great run, for first opportunity for the campus. And so we're going to continue to enhance what's there going forward in this next plan, and try to make it better, and certainly make it a plan that we will continue to use. And with any strategic plan, as you mentioned, it should lead to investment strategy around what we're doing. And so if it's not on the plan, we ought to be able to justify why we're spending funds, for something that's not included. So our investment strategy will be driven around what's in that plan and what we say we want to accomplish over the next 5 years.
Very good.
And that's a great point, because if we spend the time on the plan and put it on the bookshelf, it's not worth the time and effort. That's a great point. Anything else? Shall we invite Brad and Michaela to come up? To go over the enrollment update. Brad, I asked Heather whether or not you gave her the 20 pages of questions that we were going to ask prior to coming here.
I believe that's true.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michaela Waterfield, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Assistant Director of Undergraduate Admissions, Communications, and Operations. And we are here today to present to you the requested Fall 2024 enrollment update. Of course, as an institution of higher education, we are always going to be setting goals for enrollment, and sometimes I think it's nice to put ourselves in the shoes of prospective students. And so with that, I would like to share just a brief story with you as we look at all of this data today. So when I was an admissions counselor, I worked closely with a student who was very apprehensive and very concerned about the college application and the college enrollment process. In fact, the student was not sure if attending a four-year public university was for her. With the help of the Office of Financial Aid, the Bursar's office, the student's academic department, she did indeed end up enrolling. She later became a student leader on our campus. She has since graduated, and she is now teaching back in Shelby County, which is where she was from. And so for me, I know it's important just to remember the impact higher education has on the lives of our students as we look at all of these numbers today. So let's dive into the data. We are aiming for an overall enrollment goal of 7,105 students, representing a 2.2% increase. Our goal for first-year students is 1,157, which represents a 4% increase. Our goal for transfer students is 292, representing a 5.8% increase. And we have worked closely with our Dean of Graduate Studies, Joey Melhorn, who has indicated a goal of 190 graduate students, representing an 8.6% increase. As you may know, we employ many different measures for tracking students through what is called the admissions funnel. This includes students when they are prospective students, to when they become applicants, accepted students, and all the steps that they take once they are accepted. We have seen an increase in our applicants and accepted students, 5,203 accepted students, representing a 13.6% increase over a two-year average. Many students use some type of enrollment deposit or some type of measurement to gauge a student's plans for enrollment. Well, at UT Martin, we use what is called an intent to enroll survey. This is a non-binding survey where we ask students simply, what are your plans for the fall? Students can tell us, yes, I plan to enroll at UT Martin. I am unsure if I will enroll at UT Martin. Or no, I do not plan to enroll at UT Martin. Currently, for our first-year students, 1,295 students have indicated that they do plan to enroll at UT Martin, which is an 8% increase over a two-year average. Another benchmark we rely on for reporting purposes is the housing deposit. 965 students have submitted a housing deposit, which is a 13% increase over 2023. And we do believe that the monetary component associated with the housing deposit is a good indicator for plans to enroll. And finally, the FAFSA. I'm sure some of you may have heard about the FAFSA on the news. The FAFSA this year, the 24-25 FAFSA, has undergone an overhaul. This was due to the FAFSA Simplification Act. Typically, the FAFSA opens in October. Well, this year the FAFSA did not open until December 31st, and that was considered a soft launch. Since then, we have seen some technical errors and glitches with the FAFSA. What that has done is caused delays in students submitting their FAFSAs, and we have also seen delays for institutions receiving students' financial aid information. I am glad to say we are now receiving FAFSA information for students, and our Office of Financial Aid has worked tirelessly on processing these FAFSAs and creating financial aid award packages for our students and families. For our first-year students who have indicated that they plan to enroll at UT Martin, 64% of them had filed a FAFSA at the time that these slides were submitted. I did go ahead and pull some recent numbers as of this morning. So as of this morning, for our first-year students who have indicated that they plan to enroll at UT Martin, 82% of those students have filed a FAFSA. In 2023, 92.3% of our students filed a FAFSA. So the FAFSA does continue to remain to be a concern for us just because FAFSA filing rates are down across the nation. However, we are working closely with our Office of Financial Aid to provide information and services to our students and our families. Similar benchmarks are used for our transfer and readmit students. I will say it is early in the cycle for our transfer and readmit students. We typically see about 400 or more applications from this point until August for our transfer and readmit students. Currently, 364 transfer students are accepted, which is a 15% increase over a 2-year average. 229 of those students have told us that they intend to enroll at UT Martin, which is a 7% increase over a 2-year average. 81 readmit students have told us that they intend to enroll, which is a 24% increase over a 2-year average. And once again, at the time that these slides were submitted, 39% of our transfer and readmit students had, who have indicated that they plan to enroll had filed a FAFSA. As of this morning, this number is 51% of our transfer and readmit students who have indicated that they plan to enroll at UT Martin have filed a FAFSA. In 2023, this number was 70%. So again, it is still early in this cycle for transfer and readmit students, so we do anticipate these numbers to continue to adjust. And looking ahead, in our office, we are always striving to stay up to date on successful recruitment practices, and to that effort, our Director of Admissions, Destin Tucker, and our Executive Director of Enrollment Services and Student Engagement, Jamie Mantooth, are part of the UT System Strategic Enrollment Planning Committee. And this planning committee is focusing on a system-wide enrollment plan and enhanced coordination. The UT system has requested that all UT institutions join the common application as part of another additional application option for students. So we are currently working on designing and implementing UT Martin's first ever common application, which will go live later this summer. And finally, as we've heard, Chancellor Freeman has shared his vision for increasing international students to 5% by 2030. So we are currently exploring recruitment efforts and best practices in order to realize this goal.
Good afternoon. As you're aware, part of enrollment management, enrollment projections, we have to think also about retaining the students that we have, progressing them to the next benchmark, and helping them to graduate. And this strategy will be an important piece of what we use to get to that 10,000 enrollment as well. I'd like to give you some updates about some new tools that we have, some processes we have in place, and I'll share some numbers with you as well. I'm really thrilled about a new metric that we have, a new dashboard that we've created in partnership with Ryan McDonald's office in our institutional research area. Ryan's a great partner, and he's helped us create a week-to-week retention tracker. So in the past, we were able to look at these numbers historically. We were always able to look back and sort of forensically pick apart what we had seen, but now we can see these trends in real time. We can compare our numbers over the summer and winter and during enrollment periods to the date the year before, and we can look at trends as they unfold before us. This is a wonderful tool. We've had it now for about 3-4 weeks. I'll share some of these data with you in a moment. We are in the midst of our engagement enrollment campaign in the Office of Student Success. This is something we've done since I started here 2 years ago. I'm very thrilled to tell you that since we initiated this campaign this April, we've already enrolled 248 returning students. That number will continue to climb throughout the summer. We also did our registration celebration this past April, and 317 students stopped by. All but 27 of those, I believe, are registered at this point. We continue to work on that. In partnership with Dr. Freeman and inspired by one of his ideas, we'll be working on a completion grant process to help re-engage stopped-out students or students close to graduation who are experiencing a small financial burden. We've compiled the data on that. We'll begin that project this summer as well. So we're thrilled about some of these endeavors. So here is the data I wanted to share with you today that coming from that point-to-point retention tracker. Now, it's important to realize that these data were pulled, or were most recent when the slide was submitted as of the 6th. Some of these data have been updated because this updated on the 10th, and we've had some end-of-term processing there, so some of these numbers have relaxed a little, but we're still in great shape. First-time, full-time freshmen at the point-to-point difference here, 3.6 percentage points. The fall 23 census number is there on the right-hand side, and if you recall, in fall 23, we saw over a 2% increase in our first-time, full-time retention from fall 22. So all metrics right now are looking really positive. We're seeing gains in everything that we normally track, point-to-point, and in terms of overall census projections as well. So these have relaxed just a little bit due to end-of-term processing, but we are still well ahead of point-to-point last year as well. Currently, our first-time freshmen up 0.7 percentage points, all freshmen 1.4, sophomores up 4.7, juniors up 0.7, seniors up a full 6 percentage points, transfers up 1.7, and our entire undergraduate population retention metric, counting both graduates and returning students, point-to-point as of the 10th, not reflected here, is 3.1 percentage points. This is something we're really pretty proud of right now. When I last spoke to you in the wintertime, we were hoping that this would carry over from the persistence that we had seen. And as you can see, these numbers match pretty closely. So not only is it important that we keep students fall to fall, but keeping students fall to spring, and anytime we can increase that number, we're setting ourselves up for success. And it's really nice to see how closely these mirror each other. And I'm not sure why that juniors number got marked off of there, but as I recall, that was 93.7%. I can tell that impresses you that I know that off the top of my head. I think about numbers all the time, my friends. So our persistence gains and our projected retention gains, this is what I was talking about. This is where these marry up. You'll see some areas, as in sophomores, where the persistence gain was outpaced by our projected retention gain at the moment. Same thing with juniors, same thing with seniors. Some of this with our classes, our upperclassmen, our juniors, our seniors, some of this has to do with some of those students who had experienced some COVID difficulties in high school and early on in college, working through slowly. But we are ahead in every metric. I'm really pleased about what some of this may entail for our fall census date. So coupled with what Michaela had presented and our retention numbers, keeping the students that we've got, progressing them through to graduation, these are our projected enrollment goals for the fall. We're happy to answer any questions that still remain about either recruiting, enrollment, or retention.
I'd have one question, just for clarity. The goal is to increase international students to 5%. What is it currently? Roughly.
Yes, I don't have the exact number, and I don't want to misquote, but we can find it for you and let you know.
It's really small.
Really small.
Yeah, very small.
There's opportunity for improvement.
Very good.
So what kind of programs do you have to do the retention, to kind of promote retention of students in place?
Retention is a campus-wide effort, so everybody is engaged in this in some respect. But my office is the one that has to report the numbers, right? So I work with the Student Success Center, and one of the things that we do primarily to engage and help our freshman students retain to sophomores, we know that if we keep them from freshman year to sophomore year, we are much more likely to graduate them. So each student has a dedicated success counselor. Those caseloads are under 300 to 1. So in addition to their faculty advisor, who's an expert on the curriculum and an expert on their field of study, we've got success counselors who offer holistic support. They reach out to students. They meet with students regularly. We follow up with students. Last fall, over 95% of our earning first-time freshmen met with their success counselor. We run a number of different campaigns that are aimed to help students with specific difficulties. So we run tutoring, we run supplemental instruction. We have other excellent campus partners who have independent tutoring, such as the Writing Center, the Math Center. But we also do a few things that perhaps would be difficult for the university to do if we didn't have specialists dedicated to this. So one of the things that my office will do in the fall is we will pull HOPE GPAs for every student at the December grading period. Because students get checked for HOPE at 24 hours completed, right? You may not know that you're in danger of losing that HOPE scholarship until May, at which point it might be too late to do anything about it. So we have a list of students who are kind of flirting with disaster maybe, and we want to reach out to them and get them into the office and talk to them about what can we do to make sure that you keep this money. Because that could be a $5,000 mistake.
Yeah.
And that's as important to us as it is to them, because we know that students that can pay for school are going to do better in school. So a number of different campaigns, a number of different initiatives. I will say that Dr. Freeman's office has been very, very supportive of a lot of the retention efforts that we've done, and I think that his support, as well as the Faculty Senate's support, has led to more of an increased awareness of the importance of retention on campus, and that this has become more of a campus-wide effort. We wouldn't see these kinds of gains unless all of us were working together to do this.
Brad, I probably asked this last year, and we'll probably ask it next year. Explain persistent gain,
Yes, sir, sorry.
versus retention.
So when we talk about retention, we're talking about enrolled in fall and either graduated or is enrolled in the next fall. When we talk about persistence, we're talking about one semester to the next. And so when we talk about persistence, I'm typically looking at fall to spring.
Okay.
And persistence is almost always going to be higher than the retention number in most instances, but anytime we can show a persistence gain, we're dealing with obviously a larger baseline to start with. And so when we see those persistence gains carry over, at least somewhat married to the same number in the retention gain, that's when we're looking like we're in good shape.
Let's go back to the first, new student tracking. One more. Right there. Look, wow. Explain me the difference on 5,003 and 12,000. First year accepted student. But we know that they're freshmen. What is first year accepted student?
Yes, so this number are students who have been admitted. So they have applied to the university, they have met our requirements in order to be accepted. And so they are accepted is what we say, or admitted. Those terms are sometimes interchangeable. So right now, we have 5,203 students who have met our admissions requirements. And then the next number underneath it, those are students who have said, yes, I plan to enroll at UT Martin.
Other questions? I know one of the strong points when Dr. Freeman came was you had worked in student recruitment and retention and everything else. Hopefully you are a good way for them to learn what maybe you guys did over for the mocks.
Yeah, I will just say that we have an incredibly talented team of folks in enrollment services
I
who
agree.
are truly dedicated to making certain that our students do well. And so I feel thrilled to have them as professionals working at UTM and working with them to remove barriers. And, one of the things I have learned through my career is you hire and have really good people working with you, and then you have to be smart enough to get out of their way. So that is what I'm trying to do, is to push them as much as I can and then get out of the way and let them do great work. And as you see, we're outpacing all of our key indicators in terms of metrics, for students. We had a goal of 4% for first-year students. We're running about 8% right now in terms of those students who have said that they're going to come. That is, continued sort of success for us overall. Of course, the expectation is that I'm going to want them to double that every time. So success begets success in a lot of ways. But you can see why, the indicators that we have really do point to a successful fall semester. And as we continue to go to 2030, and we put these metrics up and put these goals out there, we're going to be able to get them. But it's going to be a full campus effort to be able to do it.
What can we do to help?
My first thought was money.
I figured that was going to be your first thought. Let's skip on to the second thought.
I think, as Dr. Freeman said, just a culture that starts from the very top, that emphasizes that every student can succeed, every student has a place here, and that every student is important to us. I think that we've made some great strides as a university in the last couple of years in focusing on recruiting and retention, and we've seen the gains from that in terms of headcount, in terms of retention percentages. But any chance that we have to just spread that message across the campus at our regional centers for our online students as well, that every student matters, there is a place for every student here, and that they are important to us, and it's never the wrong time to reach out. So we have folks who will answer phones, who will answer emails, who will answer texts. We're always there to help. We just need students to be comfortable reaching out to help, and to be comfortable knowing that we have
Brad, I mentioned that I was with Dr. Plowman earlier this week. It's very interesting because she went through and sort of described what the UT system was, and she got to UT Martin. You know what she said about UT Martin?
We're the best one.
She says it's the closest thing to a private university that's public that you will get. It's so close, friendly, and everything else, which I was very happy to hear her say that. It's easy to say that when you got 40,000 applications for 7,000 students, though. But I truly believe that they are doing things to encourage those students that don't get into Knoxville to come to the other campuses.
Yeah.
I truly believe that.
We have some programs that are set that help us with doing that as well.
Good.
So they are great partners for UTM and in the system. So we're proud to work with them on offering an excellent alternative for those students who wanted to go to Knoxville, are not able to, and admitting them here. And what we also find in it too is once we get them here, they might think they want to go to Knoxville, but they end up staying with us, right? Because they've gotten here, they've gotten acclimated, and they love the campus, and they get to meet really talented faculty members and great staff members who are here supporting them, and so they end up staying.
One of the people that was in that meeting came up to me and says, "Why did she say that?" And I said, "Well, the difference is that if you're a freshman at UT Martin, you're probably going to be in a class of 18 or 19 students taught by a professor, not a graduate student. You know, it's not going to be 300 kids in math." And they said, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah, really." You know, but very impressed. A couple of years ago, Brad was talking, or not a couple of years ago, maybe last year, he was talking about the improvements in retention, and I got to thinking, well, one of them was only up 0.5%, but then that's 35 students.
Yeah.
That's a lot of students, you know, when it's all said and done.
Presently, our fall-to-fall number for all undergraduates right now, today, is 82%. And that's a full 10% higher than it was at last year's census. So we're tracking well ahead of where we were this time last year. And to your point, in the last 2 years, we've gone from 70.01 first-time full-time to last year was 73.3, and we're projected to be higher than that this time, this census. That's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, these are freshmen whose lives are changed because they continue to have access to high-quality higher education.
Any other questions? Thank you all.
Thank you.
Very much. Now for my favorite part. Petra? The budget overview and approval of the proposed annual budget.
Good afternoon. We will get started with our proposed budget for next year. So starting with our tuition, starting with our revenue projected for FY '25, we start with a budget overall of $121 million. The tuition and fees represent our largest revenue source at $66.6 million, followed by state appropriations at $49 million. The next slide reflects a similar budget amount. It's equal at the $121 million. The left side represents the functional areas that we report, but I've also grouped them to kind of reflect which side, how the operation of the, how those reflect in the organizational structure of the university. So the first section, if you look at more of our instructional, research, public service, and academic support, often align with academic affairs, represents $63 million. Student services represents student affairs and athletics at $16 million. The operational side of the house, which would be institutional support and operation and maintenance, is $24.8 million. Our scholarships and fellowships are $13.1 million, and the institutional transfers represent things like our debt service and the transfer from our different funding sources that are in things like plant funds some of our renewal and replacement accounts. So just looking at that, we, of course, use an operational budget to match our revenue sources, and it's always equal. Giving a little bit more detail about the state appropriations, our funding formula would yield roughly $900,000 for us to have in use for next year. We are able to have a 3% salary pool for next year, and that will be an across the board. They have asked, the system has asked for us to do that as an across the board, which is a departure from our normal method of allocating salary increases. That was mainly because we are planning to change accounting systems. Our ERP will change. It has been delayed to a January 2025 start. However, we are keeping with the across-the-board methodology for salary increases. And then we also received some money for health insurance and tuition and fee waivers. Our intention is to propose a 3% increase in our maintenance fee, which essentially is what we call our in-state tuition. That represents $256 of an increase per year, which would bring our per year amount to $8,802. The next item we have is a new dual enrollment rate that we're proposing. And this essentially is being proposed to simplify how the information is represented to high school students and their parents. The amount of the rate per 3-hour course is essentially the cost of the average of community colleges rate. And we have a consistently locally governed institution rate. They already have a fee structure of this nature, so that we are trying to have very comparable information when we're competing for dual enrollment students. So there's not that big of a difference in trying to explain the rate that we currently charge for undergraduate students, and then how much of it is the grant that comes from the state, and then how much of it is a scholarship. We wanted to make it kind of an easier representation of what the amount will be. And that is illustrated a little differently on this next slide. For the first 1 through 5 courses that's in the dual enrollment program, the state offers currently an amount of $554.40. So we are just basically restructuring it where our rate now is the $1,101 amount. We have the scholarship that comes, the grant, the Tennessee Dual Enrollment Grant, that's the same for the $554.40. And then we also offer a scholarship that is the UTM Dual Enrollment Scholarship. So the net effect to the student is $0. In the new model, it would essentially be the same. The amount that they're charged is the amount that the dual enrollment grant will be. It is subject to change to next year. We won't know until the Tennessee Board of Regents meets in I think it's July, what that amount will be. But our intention is to essentially charge the amount of the dual enrollment grant from the state, so that it's a zero net effect to the students. But it's a simple representation of how those charges would be. In courses 6 through 10, the state offers a grant as well, but it's a lower amount. So in that case, we would still have the same dual enrollment rate of $554.40. The Tennessee Dual Enrollment Grant is the $300 in that case. And then we will still offer a scholarship, so the net effect to the student is $0. This would make us competitive with other institutions, and also make it affordable and provide the access to students. The next item is the change that we're proposing for mandatory student fees. The first one is a publication fee that will be renamed the student media fee. It would increase by $16 per year or $8 per semester for the increase to have a total of $30 per year for that charge. The next one is a new fee, and it speaks to some of the support for the efforts that Brad just described, which would be a new academic support fee proposed at $80 per year or $40 per semester. It would only be charged to undergraduate degree-seeking students. The intent for this one would be to provide increased supplemental instruction, tutoring, and other student academic support. One of the things that we did have support is from the Student Government Association, so that they were familiar with what we're trying to do and also be in support of it. We really wanted them to be supportive of what we were trying to do with the new fee.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What undergraduates would be non-degree seeking? What's a non-degree seeking undergraduate if this is only for degree seeking
So
undergraduates?
an example of that would be like dual enrollment is one.
Okay.
And then a person can just enroll in a course, just take classes here,
Okay.
and not be in a degree-seeking program. And so that would be another case. The majority of our undergraduate students are degree-seeking, that excluding dual enrollment, but those were the examples.
Thank you.
The next slides are just comparisons of where UT Martin would be, assuming that all of those peer institutions increased by a similar percentage at the 3%. And we have representation of that for both the in-state rate and the out-of-state rate. Similarly, we have aspirational peers, and we just always like to make sure we're not outpricing ourselves and just be aware of what those amounts will be. So we have both representations of the in-state and the out-of-state for those. So to kind of summarize what our proposed tuition and fees are, the undergraduate maintenance fee would be $8,802, which is a 3% increase. Undergraduate tuition and mandatory fees combined would be $10,560 for an increase of 3.45%. The graduate maintenance fee, $9,748, with the increase also at 3%. The tuition for the graduate and the mandatory fee combined would rise to $11,396 at a 2.6% increase. And then we would have a dual enrollment rate, considering the change, but the net effect, having that at $554.04, subject to change pending the amount of the new rate or the new grant that we will have. The corresponding amounts for the budget would basically increase our our unrestricted education and general fund budget to the $120,915,785. We also have unrestricted auxiliary funds at the $11 million, with the subtotal for the unrestricted funds at the $132.5 million. We also have restricted funds that represent largely our grants, but also gifts at $41 million, for our total current budget to be $174,046,637. We've also budgeted the expenditures and transfers to equal that amount. Are there any questions? course.
Petra,
Yes.
knowing you won't get it exact because it's, I just want, is our state appropriations as a percentage of our total revenue going up or down?
It's going up
Okay. Which is
slightly.
Slightly, because that's sort of a little different trend, because I know it is trending down.
Yes.
Okay. On your debt service and funds, do we have any buildings that are gonna be dropping off that?
Not in the FY '25 fiscal year. I think our next one that will come off will be, actually, I believe this building,
Okay,
University Center, and it's about 3 years out.
okay. Okay. And the Tennessee Dual Enrollment Grant, excuse me for saying it this way, that's real cash that comes into UT Martin?
It is.
Okay. And the academic support fee, the people who are not paying it, that don't pay the $80 because only degree seeking, the other people will have available for them the instructions and the tutoring and things
Yes.
like that. So it's not like, hey, you didn't pay the $80.
Right, we don't have an admission ticket or anything.
Okay, sorry about your luck, okay. And is the publication or student media, is that for all students?
Yes.
Okay,
It's all undergraduate students.
all undergraduate?
Yes.
Okay,
And it's only charged to full-time
okay,
students.
okay. Which that's almost, I'm sure there's the exception, but I can't imagine a non-degree seeking full-time student. And there's probably some out there, but
Possibly,
possibly,
but I'm not aware of any.
yeah.
But we will allow them to do that, by the way. That's part of growing to the 10,000, by the way.
There you go. Other questions on what happens? What happens is, we approve this, and then ultimately, a more detail goes to the Board of Trustees, and the Board of Trustees actually has the responsibility of one, approving the budget, and then number two, making sure these two people live in the budget, which is very easy, I'm assuming.
Oh, yeah, right.
Questions? Hearing none, then it's appropriate for us to approve this or recommend it to the Board of Trustees. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Here's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Assuming no further discussion, because I got that out of order. Jamie?
Hal Bynum,
Yes.
Taylor Cantrell,
Yes.
Tanya Brindleson,
Yes.
Clinton Smith,
Yes.
Art Sparks,
Yes.
Dan Strasser,
Yes.
Johnny Wolfall.
Yes.
I believe it passes. Thank you, Petra. That was pretty easy. Comments by our Chancellor?
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate your questions and insight into all of the things that we've presented to you today. And I do need to go back just for one quick second to, because there is one person who is not in front of me that I did not mention who is rolling off, and that is Dr. Clinton Smith, who is committed beyond commitment because he is in Germany and he is joining us. It is dark where he is right now, but he is still here. And so, Dr. Smith, thank you so much for serving as that faculty voice this previous year. So, and forgive me for not including you when I initially mentioned Dr. Mantooth and Taylor. So there have been a lot of things that have happened since the last time we were together, and I want to highlight some of them for you and then answer any questions for you that you might have for us. One of which is we were able to dedicate the ROTC building to Lieutenant General Cavan on April the 12th. He is a 1970 alumnus with a degree in agriculture. He served at some of the highest ranks with the U.S. Army Recruiting Command at Fort Knox and also at Fort Monroe, Virginia. And we were honored to have him on campus and to do that naming ceremony for our ROTC Center. So it was great to have him here. Another thing that happened to us is the Captain's Challenge. We had a phenomenal year this year with the Captain's Challenge. It is our one day of fundraising, deliberate fundraising. You can give money 365 days a year, but the Captain's Challenge is that one day of fundraising that we have. We had over 1,400 donors from 40 different states. Our goal was 1,200, so we were able to do 120% of our goal for individual distinct donors on that day. We raised almost $430,000 on that single day, which is also phenomenal. And one thing we did this year was encourage students to participate. And so we had students donating this year to the Captain's Challenge this year. And I gave a challenge to Gina and the team and said if we had a certain number of students who participated, that I would be willing to take a pie in the face from one of the students. And so, lo and behold, I should have gone back to count the number of students to see if we reached the goal. But I did take a pie to the face that day from the grandson of Chancellor Emeritus Nick Dunnigan. So his grandson, Nick Austin Dunnigan, did the honors of pieing me first, and then my daughter and my son both gave money so that she could pie me as well. So took 2 pies to the face on that day. But it was certainly all in fun, and so just a great day for university advancement for the campus in terms of that Captain's Challenge. Really excited about where we are and what happened during that day. Our women's basketball team went to the NCAA tournament, and that was really fun. I had not gone before and thought I was going to have a chance to see us beat up on Caitlin Clark in Iowa, but we were not successful in that initial bid and didn't get to play her. But what a successful, incredible season for our men and women's basketball teams. The women went to the tournament, represented us very well, and so I am incredibly proud of them, and also Coach McMillan, the women's team, for the year that they had. So that was outstanding. Again, I want to go back, both teams next year, so we'll see how that works out. We had spring commencement. We had over 700 graduates and 2 ceremonies. And I would venture to say very quietly, we had probably 5,000 folks in the Elam Center for each one of the graduation ceremonies. Not quite sure what the capacity is, but I think we probably got really close to capacity in the Elam Center for commencement. It is the best of who we are and the best of what we do, and certainly a celebration for our students and for the hard work that they have done. And so I was proud to honor those 700 graduates during that, officially 703 graduates during that ceremony about a week and a half ago for commencement. Coincidentally, we have a regional retention summit coming up on May the 22nd and 23rd. Our provost, Dr. Cavalier, is leading the charge with the retention summit. This is the third year of the retention summit. We have folks coming from across this entire area, across the state, coming in, and they're doing presentations about retaining students, for not just our campus, but higher ed in general. So we are expecting a really good crowd of folks to talk about the enterprise, the work around how we retain students in a way that pushes all of our institutions forward. And so I'm looking forward to that event on the 22nd and 23rd next week. Should be a really, really good event and a great experience overall. Some of you may have seen that we signed, and I mentioned this earlier, a new dual enrollment, dual admission agreement with Jackson State Community College. And those agreements are intended to make the transfer process more seamless for transfer students. And so if we're in an agreement, we're talking about how courses articulate to UTM. If they take them at the community college and transfer over to us, it makes it easier for them to be able to do that. We're going to keep beating the bushes trying to find those types of partnerships for our community college partners and TCAP partners around these programs, so that if students want to continue and get a bachelor's degree, we want to be that preferred choice for them to do it. And the way to do it is to create a visible pathway for them to see, if I do this here, I can go there and finish my degree at UTM. So I'm really proud of that relationship with Jackson State. They have a new president there as well, Dr. Kara Rothstein. She is an incredible leader. She is a Tennessean. Well, she came from the Nashville State Community College campus. She was provost there and is now the president at Jackson State. So really proud to have that agreement. We're looking for more opportunities with Dyersburg State and Nashville State as we go forward to do similar kind of experiences overall. Let's see. The only other thing I will just mention, there are some, this campus has been incredible for, experiential learning opportunities for students. We do it, I would say, better than any other campus. If students want experience in their field, all they have to do is come and enroll in one of our academic programs, and we give them a chance to do it. So our students with the TVA Investment Challenge, TVA has given them money to invest money. They won first place in a portfolio poster competition at the Student Managed Investment Fund Consortium in Florida. So Drs. Haddad and Cole are the advisors. Great experience for them in terms of learning how to invest money. Namely, it's not their own, so that's actually a better investment. But learning how to invest money and seeing return and growth on those dollars. Excellent, excellent opportunities. Our political science students, under the direction of Dr. Rasul, working with Blue Oval City, they've commissioned an Equitable Growth Opportunities grant looking at Mason and Stanton, Tennessee. Blue Oval City, of course, has invested mightily in the area, and they're looking for equitable growth. And so they asked us to come, working with our Office of Research, Outreach, and Economic Development, asked us to come and help them with studying what that would look like. And so political science, Dr. Rasul, some of our students put together a study, conducted a study to do it. We will continue to solve, some of the most practical, difficult issues that are impacting our area, impacting this region going forward. So I thought it was important to just mention those two really high-level things. I could probably go all day talking about these exchanges and opportunities that our students are getting, but it is incredibly important that we continue to give them those experiences. When I talk to alums, what they say to me is, I was prepared at UTM. I might have gone on to law school somewhere or gone on to a professional graduate school or whatever, but I was prepared at UTM. And so I think it is because of these experiences and chances to work very closely with our faculty that our students feel very, very prepared. So we will continue to trudge on in doing those things. With that, I'll stop and take any questions that you have.
I've got a question for
Yes,
you,
sir.
surprise.
Okay. I'm ready.
At our last meeting, Ashley Bynum talked to us about problems with transfers of credit between institutions, which I considered that not to be just for athletics, but for other things.
Right.
What are we doing on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know that the provost is here too, and Brad is here as sort of backup around that issue as well. All right, so these agreements, these articulation agreements really do help in terms of seamless transfer for students coming into our institution that might be transferring in. The more work we can do with the other UT schools also, so I'm anticipating that the strategic enrollment planning process that UT is undergoing right now will have information in it about transferability of courses. In particular within UT, the goal is to make it easier. The premise behind the common application is so that students can apply to all of the UT schools at one time. And so that's why we're putting that in place, to make it more seamless and make it easier. There continues to be and will probably forever be work to be done on seamless transfer of courses and how we articulate and evaluate those courses for our institution. But we will continue to be committed to doing it. I don't know if Phil or Brad, if you guys have anything you would
So
add.
I want to mention the CPOS project.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
So we completely revised every single program, academic program on this campus this year, so that when a student transfers in his or her gen ed, it comes in. And that sounds obvious, but many programs were requiring a particular course to satisfy the general education. So a kid coming in with an AA or an AS had completed the gen ed essentially, and it should have counted, but that was not counting because they were not taking a particular course in the gen ed. So every single program has now moved any requirement like that out of general education into the program. And that is a serious hindrance to transferring in the past, that we had to do a serious lift to get that done, and the faculty got it done.
And Dr. Cavalier, I applaud you for that, because that's one of the things that I used to hear from students that had problems of transferring credits in. So I sincerely applaud that and what you've done. I also applaud the basketball teams. Tanya would appreciate this.
I do, yeah.
I saw a couple of women's games, Tanya, where we played 5 players because that's all we had.
I know.
And that's pretty tough.
Yeah.
That's pretty tough.
Are you
Any-
guys, I'm sorry, I was wondering about transfer, because are you guys using transferology too? Like transfer now? I know we had an issue, my daughter goes to UW, she plays tennis there. Sorry, I know.
It's all right.
Yeah. UT Martin doesn't have a tennis team, just so you know, and that happened her freshman year. Okay, so, yeah, but she did train up here with the coach though before she left. But, you know, at UW, she did DE, and she did DE with Jackson State and here. And so that's what she did through high school, was she actually had 20-something credits in DE. And so the big thing in the athletics department, they use transferology. And so she wanted to do courses this summer, but when we started to try to download the CVs and not CVs, but the curriculums, it was not ready, and it wasn't readily uploaded into transferology, when you had universities across the nation that are in transferology. And she couldn't look up, oh, you're shaking your head, yes. Yeah, it was a big issue, so she didn't do the courses this summer here, because, you know, the online courses, because it wasn't in there, and she couldn't get it accredited through the athletics department. So that's something that I was just wondering, because, I mean, I know we're thinking about people coming in here.
Sure.
But she's at home, you know, well, she's only here 3 weeks, but she's traveling all summer to play in tournaments, and that's something that we've had an issue with. She wanted to get in 2 courses this summer before she went back in the fall.
Sure.
Yeah.
And Brad, were you saying that we don't have a problem, or we do have a problem there?
This is an area where we can continue to develop and improve.
Okay.
It's an opportunity.
It is an opportunity.
It's an opportunity.
We'll put it on the list of,
Yeah, so next summer she can. Yeah.
that's right, that's right.
We don't have problems, we have opportunities.
That's right.
That's exactly right, sir.
Okay.
And one quick comment, you talk about the captain's challenge.
Yes.
Short time after the captain's challenge, I got a phone call one night from a student. They notified us they've been to UT Martin, and I'm getting ready to tell her, I've already donated to the captain's challenge.
Okay.
So they can call it me, but I was afraid from that, and she got to the point of saying, I want to call and thank you for donating to the University Captain's Challenge.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
We don't get, people don't stop to thank people for things they do. I thought that was a great move. I don't know if we've ever done that before.
This is
I
the
don't
first
think-
year the students, well, it's our engagement center students that also do call and ask for money sometimes, but their purpose after Captain's Challenge was just to call and thank people, and we've heard this from a couple of others that were just like, I was waiting for the ask, waiting for the ask, that was like, I just wanna say thank you, that's all.
We had a
So
great
it's-
conversation, and
we definitely will be doing that.
that's
Thank you.
Johnny, I've heard that from a lot of folks, and Gina, I will applaud. You know, it used to be that the students from UT Knoxville were calling, and really, when you ask them a question about UT Martin, they had no idea. But using UT Martin students, I think, is great for the very reason that Johnny brought up. Any other questions to the chancellor? Okay. That's actually one of the things I had written down to say about the Captain's Challenge. Kurt McGuffin, who may or may not be here, I'm not sure, has done a great job with our athletic department. he actually chaired the NCAA selection committee this year for softball.
That's where he is, actually.
And that's where he is. We have a new basketball coach. Our coach left and went to Mercer, closer to home. I think our basketball coach is a one-man person trying to get you international students.
Yes, I think you're right.
I look at the names, and if they've only got one vowel in them, I have problems with him. But I hope he can get out and play. He's 6'9", but he's bringing in several students, and he's had a very, very successful career wherever he's been, and he was there for 14 years or
Right.
something like
That's
that.
right.
So my hat's off to what Kurt's done, not only the recognition for the softball, but bringing in a new basketball coach. I want to thank Clinton Smith, who, again, it's 9:30 in Germany. Dan is probably wondering where you're going to send him in 2 years, where he'll be able to call in. Any other statements or comments? That's all I have. Hearing none, is there a motion we adjourn? So moved.
Second.
Believe it or not, we have to have a roll call vote.
Al Bynum,
Yes.
Taylor Cantrell,
Yes.
Tanya Reynolds,
Yes.
Clinton Smith. Yes. Art Sparks,
No, I'm going to vote no. I'm sorry.
Dan Strasser,
Yes.
Johnny Wolfall.
I'll change my vote.
Okay.
We are adjourned, and I thank the board and